Hi, this is Craig Collins, and welcome to Aloha Friday. I have my Aloha Friday shirt on because I lived in Hawaii for a while, and it has a little bit of trim at the bottom that gives that Aloha feeling to it, but otherwise it's my formal Aloha shirt. Well, welcome. I'm Craig Collins, and I'm the CEO of Yes You Can Read Now. And I have lots of fun things to share with you today, current things and just an overall that would give you an idea of what it's like to teach someone to read in 2.5 hours. Last night at 12:30, the parents of one of my students called me and said that their daughter is autistic, and that she had challenges with reading, and so she called me up and she sent me a text message that said her daughter had gone through the reading method and she read all 475 words. Maybe there were 1 or 2 that she had challenges on, but 475 multi-syllable words from the GED. And she's 16 years old, and this is a big increase in her ability to read. It was just amazing. So I'm just really was excited. It was like a wonderful way to go to sleep last night. I was able to enjoy in my dreamland, the thoughts of the changes this little girl will experience in her life. The parents will experience the opportunities that she'll be able to have. And the reason I know about that is that I've taught several people with Asperger's syndrome. I'm not sure if this young lady has Asperger's syndrome or a different type of autism, but nonetheless, it obviously was profound last night, and profound for the family and for her. And she said, and it was easy. It was like, I was learning things like, you learn in kindergarten, and it was simple, but then she was able to use it. And I know that it's going to be adding a lot of transformation for her. So I'm very excited about that. So that's one of the things that takes place. Well, in regards to other people with Asperger's syndrome and autism, and often I've been reading a lot about how a lot of people are misdiagnosed with ADHD, and that often there are a lot of people who have Asperger's syndrome and had difficulty with reading because of it. So I taught a young man, his name was Harris, in Minnesota, and it was clear that he was autistic. His mom was very clear and was able to express to me about how he was vaccinated, and the next morning he wasn't the same little boy. He wasn't active, he wasn't excited, he was really subdued, and how that affected his life. And so when I met him, he was in the back seat, and they talked openly about it. So it was I was really excited, because I want you to know I was skeptical about the reading method, and so I needed to be able to say honestly and confidently that the reading method works and who it works with. And so I needed to personally go out and find people and teach them a reading method. And this was at a time before we had a video. Like last night, the little girl learned on the video. She was online, and no one taught her, no one helped her. She did it by herself. And then she came back, and her mom reviewed her with these words, and she read all the words. I mean, it's just it's kind of a miracle, and it's my biggest challenge is to convince you that this is really this powerful, this fantastic. So anyway, so Harris, I taught him, and I had him read from a 4th grade primer, and he was 16 years old. And he said, yeah, he could read, and he would go for it. And so he opened the book, but he told me the story because he knew the story. That was pretty, well, it was fun for me because I liked his energy, that he was going to tell me the story and make me believe that he could read. So he couldn't read. He couldn't read the 4th grade primer. And so I didn't push it on him. I just kind of like enjoyed his energy and supported him. And then we went and sat at a table in his kitchen, and I taught him the reading method. And in the middle of the reading method, he touched his head and he was going, oh my God, I think I'm having an autistic meltdown. And I told him I just stopped reading. I don't know anything about autistic meltdowns. And so maybe he could go wash up his face or talk to his mom, who knows about that, and then come back to me. And so, hey, good morning, Harry Shade. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome to our talk this morning. Anyway, so Harris came back down and he didn't talk to his mom, and then he was able to be composed. And he was feeling something in his brain, but it wasn't a meltdown. It was an explosion of blood going into the back of his brain based on that he was learning the reading method. And so he was completely calm with that. And then we went through the whole reading method. He took a walk and then went out and got on his tricycle, and he was riding his tricycle around a circle driveway and waving to me, and quite energetic and quite expressive after having learned the reading method for an hour, which is where a lot of the changes take place and the transformation. So it was amazing to be with Harris, and even more amazing at the end, because I really didn't know, and I don't know until the end. And so I handed him these pages of 475 multi-syllable words. These are words from the GED. These are the words you have to know to get into college, right? And he's 16 years old, and he has Asperger's syndrome. And he read all the words. Yeah, let that sit in. He read every one of the words like the young lady last night did. Every one of them. And then after that, he was different. He was more outgoing. He was more expressive. He was more adult, more 16. And before he acted more like 12, riding around on a tricycle. And it was a large tricycle with big wheels that his dad had made him. But nonetheless, it was more of a childish thing, and he was 16 years old. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, I was amazed. And then his mom came down, and she said, "How are you boys doing?" And he stands up and hands his mom the papers and said, "I read all those words, all these words." And she looks at them and says, "Oh, I see. Sure." And so she was used to him making up stories. And she says, "No, Mom, I'm not kidding. I really can read these words." And so he put his hand on her left shoulder, and he put his arm around her, and he pointed to the pages, and he read over her shoulder. Essentially had his arms around her, and when his hand touched her shoulder, she looked over it, and I believe it possibly that he hadn't really ever touched her or been that close to her before. And so then he read all the words to her, and as he did, tears came down her face, and she apologized for crying and knowing that it really upset him. And normally he would have ran out of the room. He would have been real uncomfortable. But he patted her on the shoulder and he says, "It's okay, Mom, I can read." And last I heard about Harris was that he graduated from high school. He got accepted to a college where he wants to become a minister, so a theological type of college experience. He had a girlfriend, and he took her to the prom. And he's becoming a grown-up. Yeah, he's going along with the rest of the kids in his class now. And before, I think that there was some question that he would emancipate from his family, and they were really willing to willing to go with him on that. So, but they don't have to. He's going to emancipate. Another girl who had Asperger's syndrome was came down to San Diego, and they were visiting. They were staying at a condo in Pacific Beach, and she had a problem with whenever she ever leave the house or anywhere, she'd get lost. Sometimes the police would have to bring her back, because the only way she knew how to get back was to say who she was, and then they put her address on her, and they'd bring her back. And so I taught her the reading method, and she was very challenged, couldn't read, about a 4th grade reading level, and taught her the reading method on the video. This time I had the video available for her. And she learned the whole reading method, and at the break, when we take a 15-minute walk, I said, "I'll be happy to walk with you, and then you won't have any fear of getting lost, because I don't want you to be distracted by getting lost." And she said, "No, I need to go by myself. I can do it." And her mom told me that she'd never done that before, where she really felt confident. Well, I sat there and prayed, waiting for her to come back. And in 15 minutes, she would knock on the door, and I opened the door, and there she was, and she was back. And she had successfully gone for a real walk. She didn't just, go to the end of the hallway and wait. She actually took a walk and came back on her own and didn't get lost. And they were visiting. This wasn't like her house. This wasn't like an area or neighborhood she knew. So she actually had to be very conscious. And so that transformation was really, really special. on top of it, at the end, after she had gone through the exceptional sounds, after another about 30 minutes, then she read again all 475 words. And now her mom says she reads everything and talks about it at lunch and dinner and wants to talk to her, and has talked about emancipating and moving into her own place and getting a job. So this is just working with autistic Asperger's people, and it's amazing. My most common student is someone who's been diagnosed with dyslexia, a dyslexic person. But I'm really not really fond of those types of labels for people. Because what I see, what I experience with this person who's called dyslexic, is that this dyslexic, very brilliant person figures out all kinds of things, knows a lot, gets the big picture often, but can't read. When I teach them to read, and in 2.5 hours, and they get it, they absolutely get it, because they're a problem solver, and I gave them the formula. They like formulas. They use the formula, and they can read. And now they're reading 475 multi-syllable words, and when I did the pretest, they were reading at a 4th grade level and stopping and saying, I don't want to read the multi-syllable words. I mean, that's just really, really, again, another miracle. And another reason that I was skeptical, and invite you to be skeptical about what I'm saying, because, yeah, it's too good to be true. And sometimes that's really a challenge when you're marketing something that can change the world, that when you tell them you're going to change the world, people don't believe in miracles. And we do when we read people, we go to church, we read the Bible, we believe in those miracles, we have faith in those miracles. But I'm actually seeing them, I'm being there, and it's, oh my God, it fills my heart to be with people when they transform. To see a man who's like in his 60s who's challenged with reading English. That happened recently also. I'll be sharing a video. And a wonderful man, a man from Israel, and just a delightful guy. And he was learning with his family, his whole family, the 3 kids and his wife, and everyone took the reading method together and learned it together. And they all transformed, but his transformation was the most confident and really significant that I could see, that he was able to just look at words and they flowed off the tip of his tongue. And he wasn't decoding, he wasn't trying to figure it out. He wasn't, his eyes weren't as burrowed, He was open and he was excited. So to teach people to read and watch this happen for me is really, really amazing. And to hear that they've just gone on our website, and they've opened up the website, and then they've done this on their own. The daughter did it completely on her own. The autistic young girl, she just did it on her own, and mom and dad weren't around, and they were wondering, did she really do it? And she said, no, I did it. And then they tested her with the words, and then she was reading all the words. So a life-changing experience was amazing. So I want you to consider that someone who has a dyslexic brain has an advanced brain. Not a retarded or slow brain, but an advanced brain. And that's a thought that's very important. Hi, Linda Schwartz. Hello, how are you? Good to see you. I'm learning how to do these Facebook Live things, so I'm trying to say hello to everybody. My daughter read the list of words, and they're talking about her daughter, and she is a high level of functioning autistic. Has difficulty with comprehension, loves comedy, and cracks up after writing out those fun mad libs. So that's what she wrote. So hi, Linda. Thank you. Thank you. I was bragging about your daughter, and I hope I'm representing everything correctly. So she's high-functioning autistic, not Asperger's syndrome. So then what other kind of people do we teach other than dyslexic and people with Asperger's syndrome? We teach people just to fall through the cracks. You don't have to be labeled anything. Back when my brother was learning to read and not able to read, he just was unable to read. He wasn't. They didn't have a label for him. He wasn't called something. So we're not really sure what he had. But we just know that he didn't read until he was 30 years old, and it was in his 30 years old that he had an epiphany, and that the reading method downloaded before him, and he wrote it down, and then he used it, and then he was able to graduate from law school at the top of his class when before, because he was so unable to read, he was going to quit. So obviously it changed his life. Learning to read changes your life. And the other big deal, again, I keep on reiterating, is this dumb, stupid. My brother felt dumb and stupid. He talked about feeling dumb and stupid. In fact, my brother thought he was retarded, and not in the form of being Down syndrome, but the word retarded, and that he was really seriously disabled. His mind and brain didn't work, and that no one was telling him, that they were just being nice to him. They didn't want to let him know because he was so bad off that they just didn't tell him. And that's really how he felt. And then when this downloaded for him and he learned the universal reading method, it changed the way he wore his hair, how he stood, how he acted, and how he felt about himself. And then he was, he was a top man in his law school class. And that's a lot. That's really a lot to have happen in big transformation. When he had gone through college, he had failed, flunked out of the University of California, Santa Barbara twice, and went to junior college and community colleges, and it took him about 10 years, and then he ended up at Pepperdine University, and then he graduated from there, and then went to law school, and he did this without being able to read. He had to memorize everything. I mean, he told me that sometimes if he would read everything and memorize it. He had a photographic memory. But he wasn't sure how it all worked together, but he would see the symbols. But he didn't know what the symbols meant. So if he saw those symbols in the multiple choice test, then he would choose that letter, A, B, C, or D. And that's how he got through school. And that most of what he learned from sitting in the class and listening. But then he couldn't take really good notes. And it was just a really embarrassing experience for him. So that's my brother, and he's the one that invented or had the epiphany that was chosen. Maybe I've been considering that lately. He was chosen to be able to reveal this to the world. And I've been chosen to be able to get it to you. And it's a challenge. It's really a challenge. But these Facebook Live experiences will help you to meet me. Look at my eyes. Watch how I tell the story and decide if you believe me. That's the most important to me, is that you believe me. So this is an opportunity for you to decide, is this guy telling the truth? I wanted every truth to come out for you. When I traveled, I went to across the United States. I was in Minnesota, as I stated, with Harris, and I went to Chicago and taught a number of people in Chicago. Hey, Chris Tittle is a film producer, a friend of mine, and he says, Craig, what you offer is incredible, and I have seen the miraculous transformations of the students of your method. Their lives absolutely change in 2 hours. Amazing doing God's work, my friend. Keep it up. See more. Oh, it says see more, meaning there's more than that. I don't want to touch the screen. I'm afraid I'll break it. We'll see more later. You guys can see more. So thank you, Chris. Chris is also my roommate and lives downstairs, so we kicked him out of his breakfast this morning so I can do my reading method video for you. And he's been here and seen the people come and go. And he was here at a time. I had a young man come in, and I've talked about this before, but maybe you haven't heard about it. But he came to me, and he was about, I think he was about 10 or 12 years old. And he was crying. He was crying. His mother made him come, and he had his hood over his head from his sweatshirt. And then in addition, he had a bill cap on it, and he had the bill down over his face. And he just didn't want to fail that day. Not again. It was like failing at reading was a bummer, and he didn't want to do that. And I had great compassion for him. I told him, you don't have to. And told his mom, we can do this later when he feels like it. And she said, no, he's going to do it. And so she talked to him a little bit longer, and he walked into my house and sat down on the couch with his hood over his face and the hat over his face, and still upset. So I felt great compassion. I said, we don't have to. We can go to the beach. Your mom's gone. We'll just take a walk. We'll go downtown and buy ice cream, do something fun. I said, but I have a problem and I'm going to need your help. And I said, of all things, you came here to get my help and I'm going to need your help. I said, I was never a teacher. I was never trained as a teacher, so I was never trained in how to work with young men like yourself when they're crying and they're upset. So I don't know how to do that. And I said, and the other thing is that I've never had any children of my own. I've been the big brother for quite a few people. I call them Craig's kids, but never children, never young kids really. And I'm somewhat charismatic with kids, but I really don't know how to. I told them I don't know how to work with you when you're crying. I said, but I can be as your friend, and I have been a friend to many people who have cried. And I want you to know that I understand how that feels, and so I can be there with you on that, and I can be your friend. And in being your friend, I want you to know that you're walking down a road, and you believe that around the corner there's a boogeyman. And I want you to know that I've been down that road many, many times with many different people like yourself, and there's no boogeyman. It's all good news. It's like a sunny day on the beach. It's like the best surf you could ever find. It's like a new skateboard. It's incredible. And he went, oh. And he pulled back his hood and he took off his hat and he took off his sweatshirt and he went in and did the reading method. And you know what he said at the end after he had read the 475 words? Yes, he did. And when I had him read it for the pretest, he didn't have a clue. He didn't have a clue. And so he read the 400. I'm reading some of the things people are writing, so excuse me. I'm just new at this, so bear with me. Anyway, so at the end, you know what he said? He said, I'm brilliant. We talked about brilliant before. I told him that I felt that the people who were challenged with reading, that if I had a study I was doing on brilliant, I would definitely ask them, could you have challenges with reading? And then I'd choose them if they did. And so when he was done and he could read, he goes, I'm brilliant. Craig, I'm brilliant. And he was giving me high fives and he was really on fire. And then his mom showed up and she said, how did it go? How did it go? And he said, Mom, I'm brilliant. And he got up and he took the words and he gave them to the words. And he says, can you read those words? And she was looking at them and there are a few of them that were a little challenging. And she takes them back. I can read them all. And he read all of them. And this happened to me another time when I was in Palo Alto with a boy who was most likely had Asperger's syndrome and was definitely dyslexic and couldn't read. Same thing. Wanted his mom to try it and then he was so proud. And then he just said, I'm brilliant, Mom, and gave her a high five, ran out the door to chase his big sister, and they played outside. And Mom and I talked for a while, and Mom said, I can't believe it, because when I left, he was crying, and he was upset. He didn't want to be there. And you're just a miracle worker. Well, what did you do? And I said, I just taught him the reading method. Yeah. So what happens when you learn the reading method, the universal reading method, in 2.5 hours? Well, we're having a study. We're doing a study, as Harry has asked me to talk about. And that study is very amazing. And Alexi, thank you. Good to see you. And I have other people that are here. And I get to say hello to everybody that comes on. And she's from San Diego, and she does amazing things with people's brains also. So anyway, what's going on is that, well, first off, we have a study at the University of California, San Diego, and Barry Schwartz, who's a neuroscientist, has arranged this. And it's because he was so impressed. He was so impressed with what was taking place in such a short time. He was with me when I taught someone who had a stroke. Yes, Louis Sims had a stroke. He had 2 strokes and a heart attack. And when he came out of it, a guy with an engineering degree, electrical engineering degree, couldn't read. And his favorite thing to do was read. And he was paralyzed on the right side of his body. And he was slurring his speech. And so something was going on with his mind and his brain as a result of the heart attack and the 2 strokes. And he had had about 3 years of therapy and rehab, and nothing had changed his ability to read. So he came in, and so I asked Louis, how old are you? Because I wanted to make sure that he was conscious to, time and space and his own age. And so he said, I'm 62 years old. And I go, and his wife yells out, Harris, excuse me, I'm having my own mind flip here. Louis, you're 69. And he went, oh, I was so embarrassed. He said, I'm 69 years old. And then I had followed him up the stairs, and so he was really had to pull himself up the stairs. He was paralyzed on the right side of his body. And when he talked, I could not hardly understand him. He was slurring his speech. So this was a big deal to be here. And he was nervous. And so I said, well, why are you in San Diego? Because he was on his way to this high school reunion, and that had been planned for weeks, inclusive of coming to see me. And he didn't know. So I went over to Barry Schwartz, who was watching. He was there that day, and this was a big deal for him to be there. And I said, Barry, I don't think I should teach him. I don't want him to have more failure. I don't want to bring failure to this man who's already suffered enough. And he said, no, go ahead and do it. Just do it slowly. And so I didn't use the video. I actually taught him myself and went slowly through it. And within the first 20 minutes, he stopped slurring his speech. And Barry was there pointing and going to his mouth and in the background, letting me know that Louis was no longer slurring his speech. That was amazing. I mean, that was like the brain's changing, right? The brain's changing. He's not slurring his speech. Otherwise, he slurred his speech because his brain worked a certain way and working different. Well, then we took the break, and so I was prepared, as I was with the young girl, to accommodate her fear of going outside and getting lost. I was to accommodate Louis's inability to walk because he had such a major thing going on in the right side of his body. And he said no, he wanted to go for the walk, and he gave his stepdaughter his arm, and they walked out, and I said, come back in 15 minutes. And he walked out, and he didn't use his cane to hold himself up. I mean, he had a crutch. It was a polio crutch. The one that wraps around your arm, it gives you the ability to put all your weight on it. Well, he used it, but he didn't put his weight on it. And he walked out with his stepdaughter. Well, they were gone 20 minutes and not 15 minutes, and I'm kind of picky about, go out, please come back in 15 minutes. And he was with his stepdaughter, and I could trust her. She was adult, and she didn't have any challenges. So I said, well, what happened? You're 5 minutes late. And she said, well, we got to the end of the steps, and it's raining. It's raining outside. And Louis wanted to go down the steps and see the ducks. And his wife was just shaking her head because he didn't like to take walks at all, let alone steps are his worst thing to do. But he wanted to go down the steps to see the ducks, and did, and then came back up the steps and then walked back in. And the long story short on Louis is that Louis was able to read at the end of our reading method in 2.5 hours. He came to it this time when we were doing our exceptional sounds, and we're doing all, and I go, million vision nation, and he goes, million? I know million. And they go, I know vision. And so it's like a switch went on. And now Louis's favorite thing to do is to play games with those, where you have the piece of paper, it has all the letters on it, and you find words that are crisscrossed and up and down and upside down and all that. That's what he likes to do. And he likes reading from his books. So we gave back that experience to him. So what's happening? That's what's happened to me. My question, what is happening? What is going on? And from the best I can tell you is we're planting information on the brain, that it's in a different part of the brain than the part of the brain that's injured, that the brain is inviting the information through neural pathways to make sense. I taught a woman who had Alzheimer's syndrome. This is the hardest one to believe. I crossed my heart, this is what happened. And I taught this lady with Alzheimer's syndrome. And it was, it brought tears to my eyes and, exploded my heart. She didn't recognize me 3 times. And I sometimes tell the story. And she says, I don't think I know you. And when I came in 3 times, that's when we talked 3 times for long periods of time. Are you a doctor in the hospital? I said, no, I'm here to teach you to read. Oh, I haven't read for 3 years. Told me that every day before I taught her the reading method. And I taught her the reading method, and in the middle of the reading method, when she was reading the words, and she was reading them just really fast and really flowing. Before in the pretest, she avoided the multi-syllable words. So here I am with her, and she's reading all those 475 words. She's about around 300 of the words she's read. and puts her finger down and she says, Craig, I can read these words and I thank you. I haven't read for 3 years, but I now know I can. And thank you. I really appreciate it. I'd like to do something. I'd like to read to you from the Bible. If you hand me my Bible and my reading glasses, I forgot to tell you I wear reading glasses. So I opened up the drawer and I went, oh shoot, I wish I had the reading glasses the whole time. But she was able to do it. I had big print, so it worked. And so she said, I'm going to read you a verse. And she knew the verse number, and she knew what the verse was going to say. And she knew she had something she wanted to say to me. I wanted to emphasize what it took someone, what the brain energy it took to process that function. And then she found it in the Bible, knowing that it was James something, right? And she could find it. I have trouble doing that, so we're looking through the Bible and she finds it. Then she opens the right page, and then she does read to me the whole verse. It's a fairly long verse. It was about light. I brought her light. That was exactly what I did. I brought her light. She has Alzheimer's. She has serious Alzheimer's. I was speechless. Maybe you might feel speechless. And then at the end of doing that, she said, Craig, you remind me of my late husband. I loved him dearly, and you have a certain quality about you that's like him. And when we were young, we used to go to the opera, but we didn't have any money. And we got money later, but in the early stages, we didn't have any. So we used to go sit on the steps outside the opera. And the window would be open, and they would sing us songs. And my husband, he loved this one song, so I found out what it was, and I got the music for it, and I memorized the song, and I used to sing it for him. Would you mind if I sing that song for you? It's my biggest thanks for what you've shared with me. Telling you about it, every time I think about it, makes me, my eyes get a little blurry, so if they're blurry, that's the way it is. Anyway, so she sang the song for me, and I cried. And I went to use the bathroom and washed off my face. And I came back and spent some more time with her and loved that lady. And she reminded me of my mom. She was the same age as my mom, so I had some transference going on as with my mom. And so what do I have to do, though? I mean, for you guys, for everybody, I got to prove that works, and oh my God. So I've got to come back the next day, and I have to be prepared, like in the movie, the Notebook, when someone had dementia or Alzheimer's. I've got to go back to her room, and I've got to face whatever it is that she is and feels. And then maybe she didn't remember a thing. I don't know. So I took a mile swim. And then I took a bike ride. Then I had a cup of coffee. And then I rode the bike over to the convalescent home. And now I'm going to say it slowly. I went up, 7 floors to her room and then down the hallway. And when I got down the end of the hallway, the sound of people talking excitedly, kind of a conversation. And I peeked my head in, and there's a woman sitting next to Emma, who was in the bed, and she was sitting next to her, and it was her daughter, because she looked a little bit like her. And Emma turns around and looks and sees me and says, oh, that's Craig. Hi, Craig. He's the man that taught me how to read. She said, I finished my Harold Robbins book last night, and now I'm reading my Bible again. I mean, all that for an Alzheimer's woman, it's like something's going on. So I did some research on Alzheimer's, and I found out that people could be diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but they don't show symptoms of it because they're working from a different part of their brain, and the part of their brain that has the Alzheimer's isn't being actualized or activated. So I'm not a scientist, and I want you to know we're going to find out at UCSD. We'll find out why all this is going on. And we don't know. I can only suppose, and Barry's giving a hypothesis, but until we finish the brain imaging, which takes time, you have to be very patient with university. But as you hear the story and you realize that she was different the next day and remember me, then another part of her was responding to me. Another part, we feel, was access to neural pathways. And that we believe, and I believe sincerely, every single person in the world who participates in the 2.5 hours and learns the universal reading method will experience their own personal transformation. That you don't have to have a reading problem to be able to transform with the reading method. That it still activates, or through neural pathway activity, stimulates or connects other parts of the brain. Right now we are aware of 2, but there may be more. That each person scratches their head a little bit or feels a tingling feeling inside. Something changes within them, and it doesn't matter. Ree Anderson, who's in Florida, who is a therapist, has been using our reading method for, I think, over a year now, maybe 2 years. And she has been using it with her clients who are having blocks in their therapy. And not just people who had challenges with reading or stuttering or whatever, but just people that were going through therapy and trying to work through their stuff. And I was able to share with them the video, and Ria's been using it, and they've been going through their blocks. They've been going to advanced areas of their therapy. They've been not afraid of doing things they normally were afraid of. They have not been avoiding issues. They're talking about things they hadn't talked about before. And recently, she sent me, because I'm writing a book, and so Ree is adding things to the book, so we're going back and forth with her writing. And recently, Ree worked with a young girl, was 26 years old, but she knew her very well when she was born, so she knew a lot about her own personal history. This little girl was born with a lot of challenges, but the biggest thing I would say is that she didn't talk until she was 4 years old. And she also had some oxygen deprivation happen at the time of birth. So, and then she was always challenged with reading. And then her confidence was impaired, in her confidence in school. And now she was in the law enforcement. She was, I think, a police person, and she was not able to advance because she wasn't able to read enough and understand it well enough to be able to take the advanced classes. And after she learned the reading method, it was like a whole different change took place. Inclusive of she dyed her hair a different color, got it cut, became more outgoing. It was like her confidence level just went to the moon. Now, a lot of people think, well, then now that they can read, if someone can read, then they would feel more confident, which would be true. But I'm watching the confidence level, and so is Ree, taking place before they know they can read. They have an inner sense, and there's a sense of a connection that they didn't have before. So that's really amazing. There's people writing in, and I can't read everything. Harry is reading. Maybe you're reading. Maybe you guys can read what they're writing. I make it easier for me if you'll read what they're writing. Harry is in Nevada, and he works with our affiliates. And if you want to become an affiliate, he does a great job of being an affiliate. And he teaches you how to sign up and how to maintain that, and gives you some ideas for marketing. And so you can contact Harry Shade about becoming an affiliate. I don't charge you anything to become an affiliate, but I do require that each person who becomes an affiliate go ahead and go on our website and pay for it and learn the reading method is important. And we charge $297. And when you become an affiliate and you introduce people to it and they pay the $297, they'll be doing it to your URL, yours, so not mine, but yours. And when it does that, PayPal will pay you immediately $100 and then pays us the balance. And even if I do a discount, you still get $100. I don't take that away from you. And so if we're doing a special, I still pay you your $100. And believe me, the feeling of doing this work, knowing that you're transforming people's lives. When people ask you, how's your day? How are you doing? I get people ask me, how come I'm happy all the time? How can I not be happy? Everything I do has to do with changing the lives of people in a positive way. Oh, it doesn't mean I'm never sad or depressed or frustrated or whatever. But all I have to do really is to teach another person or remember someone or hear from somebody or talk about it. And then my spirit's sort of uplifted because I'm participating in the world where I'm changing it in a way that will be a big difference. Big difference. So other students, we teach people from foreign countries, like a family from Israel, and who have a different accent, and that's real helpful. With the woman, and I know she would never agree with me, and that's fine. But I can understand her better. But I'm also a little hard of hearing. Maybe I, got water out of my ears. I'm not sure. But after she finished the reading method, then I didn't have to ask her over and over what she's saying and have her repeat. So I was able to understand her better, and because it gave her the correct sounds. Now, it's absolutely obvious that, to me, it's a duh. If you're going to teach somebody something, you should give them all the pieces, don't you think? Do you think you should give them all the pieces and not make them confusing? Like, just first off, you got a big, huge jigsaw puzzle, and they give you open the box, there's the pieces, and you turn them all over. I mean, they gave you the pieces. Well, in teaching reading, in our universal reading method, we give every sound that's made in the English language to our student, and they put it in their brain. Now they have all the pieces. And then we show them how to organize that information. And very, very important, we teach them, there's these vowels, right? These vowels. I don't even like that word. Vowel and consonants are two words I'm not real fond of. I have trouble saying both of them. So anyway, we have these vowels, and there's long and short, or soft or hard, right? Well, when? When are they soft or hard? Just when does that happen? I mean, that's got to happen, every time, but why? And so in our reading method, we teach you why and when. So that each time you look at a vowel, you know that it's long or short. You don't have to go remember another word. You don't have to guess. You don't have to look anywhere else on the page. You can just look at it and go, oh, one long, two short is what we say. And maybe it's going to be two short and one long. So 60% of the time, that vowel, when it's got one consonant after it, it's going to be a long vowel. And two consonants after it, and it's going to be a short vowel. So that's amazing, easy, like the little girl who is autistic said. This is simple. Why didn't they tell me this before? Well, we're gonna tell everybody. That's my job. That's my life. I stay alive as long as I'm telling people, and I'm going to stay alive a long time. I am going to be here in this world with a purpose, and that is to transform the world, the whole world, everybody in the world who can't read English into an English reader. I'll tell you something surprising, and I shared with this. I gave this talk a little bit 2 days ago, just trying it out, but I didn't get a lot of response, so now I'm marketing it differently. So I'm glad you're here, and welcome. I'm so happy to see you're on listening. So, there are 90 million adults in the United States, the same number that they've talked about that don't vote in elections. And you can imagine if you were a non-reader, you wouldn't vote in an election because you wouldn't want to go into that booth and stand there all day and not understand what it was, and there's nobody there to read it to you. So 90 million adults in the United States, adults, just the adults. I'm just counting the adults. Well, we've got a lot of kids that aren't adults. So 51% of the kids coming out of high school are coming out with a 4th grade reading level. Yeah. And I just love 4th grade reading level because that's where we start, and we take them to a post-high school level. Every time. Every person. And if for some reason it didn't work, we want to hear about it, and we will give you your money back. So far I haven't given any money back. Did have students that were having some trouble with an audio and visual connection. And so we talked to someone who I know, Delina Robert, and she's an amazing lady, knows lots of stuff about the brain I've never, ever even imagined. And she told us we could do something, and that was that we could blindfold the student, and then they would listen to the reading method without having to look at it. And then when they were able to repeat what I say on the reading method, which they can, and say it, and not have to see it, then once they could do that, then we take off the blindfold, and we have them do both at the same time, see it and say it. And that has been really successful, and I think that was just amazing that Delina would share that with us. So if you do have a child, or you are yourself challenged with putting together the space on what you see and what you hear, that's one of the ways to learn our universal reading method. And if you know anybody that wants to learn the reading method, contact me, let me know. And if you want to become an affiliate, I'll be happy to pay you $100 for anybody you find for us. And the other thing I wanted to share with you, which I've learned many times, but I want to reiterate this because I want to do this and maybe you know how I can, is that when I was here just recently, I told you that I had a family of 5 and that sat and watched the video and then learned the reading method, and everybody transformed equally in the same way. And so they didn't interrupt with each other. They actually, when they talked, they did it in unison, and so it actually contributed to them, not taking away. So, okay, that's 5. Well, why should we be limited to 5? What about 10? What about 20? Well, I've taught 39, 4 classes of 39 students. And these are all students from families where they didn't speak English in the home. And they all transformed and read all 475 words. It all started at 4th grade reading levels. And had an interpreter explaining to them, and then they spoke to me in English in the end. I mean, again, more amazing stuff, right? So why not 100 people watching it in a theater? How about 400 people? How about 500 people? How about 1,000 people? How about as many people as we could put into a theater that can see the screen, hear the sound, and repeat the words with everybody, and with some people hanging out for discipline to make sure nobody was messing with anybody? What if we put some of them in the background? We'll have, like myself, or other people doing the repetition, so it guides them to be able to participate, so everybody knows when to speak, and everybody then joins in and does it. Well, I get 100%, so what if we have 500 people there, and in 2.5 hours I transform 500 people from challenged readers to college level readers? That's what I want to do. That's what we're going to do. That will be incredible. Or go on a talk show and do that on a talk show. They can bring me 5 or 10 students, and we pre-test them before in front of the crowd, and then we leave, and they come back the next day, and within 2.5 hours they've learned to read, and they read for us. I want to show everybody what it does, because it's just amazing. And reading is not hard. Reading English isn't hard, and we've been told it is. And it is the way it was taught and is taught that makes it hard. We have one exercise where you say all the sounds, and those sounds are taught with 444 jingles and rules. 444 rules. Well, what happens when you come to a word and you don't know which one of them to use, and you have to try through it? I mean, you lose all comprehension. And that's another thing I think I need to, I always forget to tell you, because that everybody's thinking, but what about comprehension? What about when they read, do they understand what they're reading? And the answer is yes, because they're no longer having to go through lists of words and being scared when they see a big word coming down the line and going through the emotion of fear. They're just wanting to know what it's said, and they just flow. And yes, and then every word that is in their listening or speaking vocabulary, they'll know. And then some of them will make sense based on how they work with the sentence or the paragraph. But the increase in comprehension is huge. Really, really huge. And then there's those inner changes of self-confidence. And it just really excites me to see the smile on somebody's face that's been crying, and who's scared, confused, dull, looking away, looking down, not engaging. I mean, it's... and then afterwards they want to give me a high five, and they're telling me about how beautiful it was outside. Adults who had some cataract issues, like a man in the South, was able to see the light flowing through grass for the first time, and up in the trees, and all the branches and birds, and he was kind of a shy person. He was kind of a low-key person, and came back and he was like excited, and he was speaking quicker, and he read the words, he read them fast, and he had a smile on his face, and so he really felt a confidence, and I'm hoping he'll do that again. I do hope him. so you have to jump off. Make it a great day. Love and light. Harry Shade. And then Linda Schwartz gave me some ideas. Great. Thank you. Thank you. So that kind of brings us to the end. I want to invite you to brag about us and tell everybody you know about the Universal Reading Method. There's more people in your world than you're aware of that can't read. Some people say, I forgot my glasses. Some people say that they feel hoarse. Some people say that they're tired. Some people say they just don't feel like it, but they would if they would later. All kinds of ways of kind of covering up that reading is a challenge. And there's no reason for it to be anymore. And in 2.5 hours, you can become a reader. So thank you for joining me today, and God bless, and aloha, and we'll talk to you again. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm going to reach over and turn it off.